somebody could be here. I could have an Oculus Quest. Another buddy of mine could have an Oculus Quest. We can be in the same room and we can have a 2-player experience. We could be standing right next to each other battling zombies. We can have that 2-player experience. And I think local multiplayer is huge. But I'm going to play you guys a clip really quick here, which I am scared. I am scared now after watching this clip. I want you guys to check this clip, and we'll talk about it right after this. So I'm going to go ahead and play a tested clip. Let's listen to this. Let's check this out, and then we'll talk about it.
Really make it shine in this local multiplayer system with 6 people all at once. So
that's the interesting thing. It's local, right? Because
that's exactly
theoretically, the consumers, like Jeremy and I, will be playing. We might play Dead and Buried, but we'll be in our own homes. But they're actually sharing a physical space with physical objects.
That's exactly right.
And are you encouraging developers to develop for that for consumer space?
In 5 years.
It's a longer term thing, and it's more of an innovation play.
Yeah. Got it.
Really proving out, it's the same hardware we're trying to show is if you push on the software and you push on the technology, you can do pretty magical, incredible things. To productize something has a lot of different things and considerations you'd have to take into account. So here it's really just on the innovation front, and then working probably with like location-based entertainment to see what's possible.
But basically, they had a straight up interview right there. They're talking with project manager Sean Liu, and they're talking about local multiplayer. And if you watch this entire tested video, it really comes off a number of different times that what they're doing with like this arena scale tracking, what they're doing with pass-through cameras as well, what they're doing with this local multiplayer. Sean Liu kept saying this is more of this innovations, like these are like things they're working on in the future. So this is very disappointing to me. It's disheartening to me because this product comes out next spring 2019. And I was hoping that like local multiplayer would be a big thing. John Carmack just yesterday, just yesterday when he was doing his keynote, he mentioned that the Oculus Quest is going to compete with the Nintendo Switch, that it's kind of in the same category with the Nintendo Switch because Nintendo Switch is this portable thing. You have your main primary home console or your high-end PC gaming rig or whatever, but you also have this little portable thing that you use every once in a while as well, and that the Oculus Quest could kind of compete in that arena. Can't remember where it's been said. It was in one of the videos or another day, but those headsets were connected to a central server running it all. They weren't directly talking to each other. Oh my God, what is going on here, folks? So how long is it going to take for us to enter this era? Why does it seem so oddball strange that one headset wouldn't freaking communicate with another headset? I still don't know that Magic Leap even does this, but it's like, what are you guys thinking about? You people that make these headsets, get with the program. If we're in the same room, if this guy over here has an Oculus Quest, I have an Oculus Quest, we enter the same room, they should communicate with each other. They should know there's another Oculus Quest right there. Let's enable Dead and Buried local multiplayer. You got a 5x7 rug. You stand on your rug. You got your guns like this. He's got his guns like this. What was that game from EA that they had back in the days with the two guys that stood, back to back and they both had their guns and it was like, yeah, bro. That's what I want in VR. And why are these VR headsets not communicating with each other? That seems like a really lost opportunity. Bullet Ape, though, is saying, look, realistically, it'd be for a very small percentage of consumers or customers. But yeah, it's a very small percentage because they're not getting behind it. They're not evangelizing it. They're not talking about it. They're not making it known and putting it out there. And I don't know, man. I guess we're just a little bit far away from that. But I thought this was like the first major VR headset that was going to push us towards that direction. We are watching the Astro Bot trailer. And why do I have it on? I don't have it on just pure random. I have this on because of our boy at VentureBeat, Jeremy Horwitz. So here we go with Jeremy Horwitz. Here is his tweet that he came out with. This is September 28th, 5:21 a.m. Guy loves to be up early in the morning. So, I mean, maybe that's 5:21 a.m. Eastern time, so probably 8:21 a.m. Pacific time is what I'm guessing here, unless he's just a night owl. But anyway, here was his tweet. The big deal VR game coming next week, as some people have correctly deduced, is Sony's Astro Bot. Several others have recently used phrases like killer app to describe it. After note number 3, my next tweets are going to take a high-level look at why VR players need to experience it. This is terribly, terribly disappointing. This is what we were all joking about the other day when we saw this tweet. We were like, oh, this is awesome. HTC Vive 2.0. You know, maybe it's the Vive 2.0. Maybe it's LG coming back in the mix. LG now has a VR headset. Maybe, you know, Knuckles is ready to go. Maybe Valve. Maybe it's Portal VR. He's played Portal VR. What could it have possibly have been? But no, it turns out to be Astro Bot. And I was actually in one thread where a lot of people were arguing back and forth about what is this guy talking about? What is this Super Mario 64 moment of VR that this guy is talking about? And people were postulating all kinds of things, hardware, software, all of that stuff. And somebody did bring up Astro Bot, and they said, no, I really think this is Astro Bot. And I came in and I said, there's no way this could be Astro Bot. We've had Robots Rescue from the Playroom VR since October 13th, 2016. We've had that for nearly 2 years. We've had Robots Rescue. I'm guessing Jeremy Horwitz never played Robots Rescue. I'm guessing Jeremy Horwitz never played the Playroom VR, doesn't know that Robots Rescue existed and thought this was like some brand new thing. I've been harping on this for a long time now. I've had rants on this show or on VR Roundtable or whatever show. I mean, you'd have to go back 2 years to find it. But I've had rants where I played Robots Rescue and I was like, guys, this is a big deal. They put the controller in the game. You're physically in the game with your adorable little platform character. This is a huge thing. I ranted on it. And then, of course, we ended up getting Moss by Polyarc. And Polyarc saw the same brilliance there. They were there 2 years ago on October 13th. They saw that and they decided to quickly make a game. You know, I'm not saying Moss was directly made for that, but that was a big part of it. And where has this guy been? He hasn't played Moss. This is not a Super Mario 64 moment. But before we go Carmack style, let's talk about Vox Machinae. Yes, ladies and gentle bots, I did get my hands on Vox Machinae, so much love to the developers at Space Bullet. They did hook me up with a review code for this game. I want to see what everybody's talking about. You know, Vox Machinae is a big game that a lot of people are into, and so last night I got into Vox Machinae, and I got to tell you guys, again, I am not a multiplayer guy. I don't really like multiplayer games very much. Multiplier. I don't like the multiplier. I don't like multiplayer games very much, primarily because I want to enjoy gaming on my time, at my pace, and that's just kind of how I am. There could be some great multiplayer experiences, but I prefer to like be able to tailor the situation to my situation and not be dependent on other people for my entertainment and all of that kind of stuff. But bro, let me tell you, this is a multiplayer game that I am going to be messing with on a regular basis, if possible. Because here's the deal with Vox Machinae. When I first got in there, I went into the tutorial, okay? And I spent a lot of time in the tutorial. When you get the tutorial, you have a tutorial section for how to do movement, a tutorial section for how to do combat, and a tutorial section about communication, okay? And so I went into the movement one, and I learned the movement. and I went into the combat one and I learned the combat, and I went into the communication one and I pretty much ignored that one. No, I'm just kidding. No, so I went into all of them, right? Multiple times. I kept doing these tutorials over and over and over again, kept banging away on the tutorials because I really wanted to get a feel for it. And so here is the beauty of Vox Machinae. The beauty of it is the goddamn cockpit. This cockpit is done well. It works well. Everything makes sense. The controls for your machine make a lot of sense. You can turn your head, which is kind of turning the top turret of your mech. You target things by just looking at it. You just look at it with the cursor. I know, yeah, some people don't like that. But the reason they're doing that is because your hands are going to be used triggers for shooting lasers, for shooting missiles. And then one of the controls is moving your rig, like how fast are you moving? Are you going forward? Are you going in reverse? The other one is to turn more dramatically. And then you have another control that you pop up that gives you these hovering jets that hover for a little while. You got different indicators and stuff that are in your cockpit. It all makes sense. The little lady that's talking to you, Max Headroom style, she's pretty cool as well. You know, this is just a great experience. God damn. Okay, Chris Cox is bringing us back to reality. He's saying, wait a minute, bro. Let's not forget the honeymoon period. Every VR game is not the best VR game ever just because you played a brand new VR game and you liked it a lot. I know, Chris. But what I'm talking about here, though, is when I'm in the tutorial and everything and I'm going through this, it just has a good feel. I like this game. And normally in a multiplayer game, it's so chaotic, it's so hectic, I can't handle it, and I kind of go into a panic mode. But this one isn't really like that, and the games last freaking forever, man. Well, about 45 minutes or so. The game seemed to last quite a long time. To me, it sounds like hand tracking is something they're kind of experimenting with, those 4 cameras, like actually being able to do hand tracking. But again, this is another Debbie Downer in my opinion, because it does not sound like when spring 2019 comes around and we buy our Oculus Quest, it doesn't sound like hand tracking is going to be anywhere in that equation whatsoever. It might be something that comes later, like a year later, and it might be kind of experimental, like, oh, we're going to enable this hand tracking mode, but it's kind of experimental. So once again, I do see this as kind of a major F up, but again, $399, you know, so things are left on the cutting room floor when you try to squeeze something down to $399. So that was Carmack talking about the hand tracking. So I have my Oculus Go right here. And I love this little thing. But when you set it down, it is wide freaking open. Like, it is so easy for the sun to hit this. So one day I had my Oculus Go. It was sitting over against a wall and it was in the shade and it was dark as hell. There was no sun anywhere near it. And I looked at it for a second and I was like, should I move that? Oh no, it's in the shade. There's no sun anywhere near it. And then what I forgot is I left and I went somewhere and I was gone for hours. I came back and there was freaking sunlight coming through the side of the window and it was so freaking close to hitting this. I thought my Go was toast. I was so scared. Here's how you solve this problem, in my opinion. Imagine if the Oculus Go and every other headset that is possibly jacked up by sunlight, what if you had a little button, you just hit a little button and then zoop, a thing goes up and it opens up and now you have your lenses. Zoop, you close it, you know, could protect it that way. Or I don't know, something could be done where it just isn't so wide open. It's almost like begging to be ruined by sun, how like wide open it is. So anyway, that is the sunlight thing. And yeah, Carmack was also talking about setting it down here because it's flat. Who the hell doesn't set it down like that? Doesn't everybody do that? I set it down like this. I guess it's a bad idea. So that is where he's talking about the arena scale. And one of the things he talked about in there was going into like a quill painting kind of thing that takes up a huge entire area. And that does sound super cool. Because do you guys remember that quill thing that we saw recently that was like so colorful and animated and all of that? Like, imagine if you had a quill thing that was done like that was huge, and you can walk all around it, you can crawl underneath. He's saying a lot of people out there don't have this kind of space, but you know what? I got a pretty big space here now. But I do believe we're going to be in a future where, you know how like if you go shopping for a home now, and this is primarily like a USA thing, but like if you're looking for homes in the USA and you can get a home that has pretty good square footage, they're going to have these rooms. They call them like the bonus room or the media room or whatever. You know, they'll advertise it when you're shopping for a house, these specialized rooms. I think we're going to have VR rooms at a certain point that are 30 by 30. They have pretty high ceilings, and you're going to have a VR room, and it's going to be like, oh, this house has a VR room. And then that way you could do like redirected walking, all these different tricks if you had like a 30 by 30 room. So I'm really looking forward to this. This is one of the exciting things that the Oculus Quest does have from this standpoint of being able to walk around. Pris Alexander is saying this is not a new invention, sure, but I just think that's cool. I like that. That was one of the things that he talked about, so that was kind of cool. Carmack on the power of the Quest. So this kind of speaks to the whole Xbox 360, PlayStation 3. Let's go ahead and listen to this one.
In terms of raw processing power, there's always a lot of hedges and if buts when you're discussing different things, but Quest is in the neighborhood of the power of a previous gen like Xbox 360 or PS3. Now, just in terms of CPU and GPU, what you can expect to do on it. But the important thing to keep in mind is that most games on that generation rendered a 1280 by 720 view at 30 frames per second, and most of them did not have very good anti-aliasing. While in VR, we're hoping that you can render at 1280 by 1280 twice for stereo and 72 frames per second, which is 8.5 times more pixels than you would have on an old 360 game. Plus, you want to be in 4x MSAA and trilinear filtering, which are some percentages additional on top of that. So it is not possible to take a game that was done at a high quality level, like a AAA title for that generation, and expect it to look like that in VR. It's too many more pixels to wind up rendering. On the upside, we do have far more texture memory and far more main memory in general than you had on those platforms. So some of the development can be easier, and in many cases, you can trade really rich textures for complex shaders and multi-pass rendering in different ways.
So yeah, that is a breakdown there from Carmack. A little bit of a Debbie Downer, because basically he's saying, yeah, so it's like a PS3, but it's different than a PS3. That is Chris Gould. And yeah, that's kind of what he's saying here. So Red Dead Redemption was a game that ran on the Xbox 360, right? And it ran on PlayStation 3. The original Dead Space is a game that ran on Xbox 360 and PlayStation 3. And if you tell me that I can somehow get inside Red Dead Redemption and I can walk around and see the horses and I can be inside Red Dead Redemption, I am freaking sold. I'm talking about Xbox 360 version of Red Dead Redemption, PS3 version, you know, which looks kind of poor compared to today's modern games. I would be completely sold. But he's saying, look, it's not exactly that easy, because those games in that generation, most of them are 1280 by 720 running at 30 hertz, a single 1280 by 720. Now he wants everything at 1280 by 1280 at 72 hertz, and so you're going to have to cut some massive corners. So, you know, that is that. So, I mean, a little bit of a Debbie Downer here, but he's saying, look, you got way more memory. You can do all these different shader tricks. So hopefully you can kind of like make lemonade out of lemons, basically. You can kind of like fake it along. And we've kind of seen that with the examples of Dead and Buried, how you can very creatively reduce textures, reduce polygons, have pre-baked lighting, do a number of different tricks, and still get some pretty good stuff going on there. So that is speaking towards, I mean, it's a Snapdragon 435. Let's just face the reality. It is a Snapdragon 435. That's a little bit sad. It's a little bit unfortunate, but that's how they squeeze it in for the price. Massage that like button so ever so gently, and then just tap that shit. Tap that like button, baby. And, you know, subscribe, all that good thing. And of course, I will be back tomorrow, Saturday. Now remember, Saturday is 12 noon.